folks, Arnav here from Coding Blocks, and this video is not going to be about coding or placements or job interviews and tips, but this is going to be about movie recommendations. Yes, you heard it right, movie recommendations. So during this lockdown time, everybody is stuck at home, and there's a lot of content from Coding Blocks as well on how to code, how to give job interviews, and so on. But of course, you guys also want to spend some time on Netflix and Prime Video and binge on some of your shows and movies. So how about let's talk about movies, but movies that programmers and developers would love. So here's my top 5 recommendations of movies on science and technology, on artificial intelligence that were made before 2000. It's quite amazing where technology has brought us to and what all things are possible in 2020. But it's really interesting if you look back at movies made in 1960s, 70s, 80s, and 90s and try to understand what people of like 50, 40, 30 years ago thought of where technology will be taking us. So let's look at the list. So we'll start off with the oldest, and then we will come to 2000 slowly. And of course, what makes to the list is the movie called 2001: A Space Odyssey by Stanley Kubrick. It was released in 1968. Okay, and I think most of you guys who are watching this video, you have seen the movie Interstellar by Christopher Nolan. And if you have watched, Interstellar, then you would really love this movie, because Interstellar was influenced in many ways by this movie, as Christopher Nolan himself said. Stanley Kubrick is a phenomenal movie director, and some of his movies have completely changed the way we look at movies and we look at art direction. And movies like Clockwork Orange and The Shining, and The Shining has changed how we look at horror, and Eyes Wide Shut. So these movies really changed, and he even was the person behind the movie AI, released in 2001, which is considered like one of the turning points of movies on artificial intelligence. So 2001: A Space Odyssey, first of all, like when I saw this movie for the first time, it did not feel like a movie that was made in 1968, because like the visuals, the setup, and the way the spaceships are shown in that movie, it feels like a movie that has been shot after 2010 or something like that. The visual effects, they are just stunning. I mean, it's just unbelievable the kind of movie it is. And this is one of the, I think, oldest movies in which the concept of an artificial intelligence turning into a dystopian world. There's a HAL supercomputer inside this movie, and which tries to kill human beings. So it's just brilliant, like the entire theme of the movie. And even when you end watching the movie, a lot of times people are just felt wondering what really did they see, and what's the conclusion at the end of the movie. It's not really like a story kind of a movie. It just weaves together a lot of different stories and leaves you hanging at the end. It's a brilliant movie. So definitely one movie that all of you geeks, you coders, programmers, developers, all of you into artificial intelligence, you should definitely watch is 2001: A Space Odyssey by Stanley Kubrick. Okay, so the next movie in my list of recommendations is, we're going straight from 1968 to 1982, Blade Runner. Now, Blade Runner has completely changed the genre of cyberpunk. So whenever you look at movies which talk about the future and science fiction, you look at these purple shaded cities with tall buildings and lights, and cars that can fly. So that entire cyberpunk genre has been completely defined by this movie. This is a movie by a phenomenal director, which is Ridley Scott. It's written by one of the most famous science fiction authors of our time, Philip K. Dick. And Philip K. Dick is, of course, known for writing a lot of science fiction apart from this. Also, a point of interest about people who are Android developers, this movie is based on a book. The name of the book is Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? And that's the place from where the word android was taken, which means a robot which looks like a human being. And also based on that term, there is a Android testing framework called Roboelectric. So it's because androids dream of electric sheep, so a testing framework for Android is called Roboelectric. Yeah. And this film has its like own cult following, and maybe a lot of you guys might have seen 3 years back the film Blade Runner 2049, which was released in 2017, which is a sequel, like sequel after many decades to the original Blade Runner film, which has got Harrison Ford, of course, coming back to reprise his role. But Blade Runner 2049, if you liked it by chance, then you must see the prequel, Blade Runner, the original one. And there is this monologue where the AI is about to be killed, and the robot talks about the tears in the rain. It's a famous monologue. That particular monologue itself has a separate Wikipedia page. It's that famous. And even the movie just opens up with people interrogating robots, and the robots trying to prove that they are human beings. And this entire theme of the movie where AI starts believing like they are human beings, it's just fantastic. And everybody who is working in the domain of artificial intelligence would love to see this movie, to see what people in 1980s thought about where artificial intelligence would be taking us. So, have you guys played this old video game called Tron, where you used to have a bike and you used to keep running and used to make blue colored lines everywhere, and you could play multiplayer, then somebody would make blue lines, red lines, yellow lines? If you have not, you are much younger than me. And apart from that, it also brings us to our third recommendation, that is Tron. And Tron was also released in the same year as Blade Runner was released, and Tron was another movie that was part of this growing cyberpunk genre. And the very interesting thing about both Blade Runner and Tron is that just like Blade Runner got a sequel in 2017, Tron also got a sequel many years later called Tron Legacy in 2010. And Tron is about somebody who gets trapped inside a game, and the sequel to Tron, the 2010 movie, is where they come back out of the game. And Tron also is a fantastic movie. It talks about how your mind can get stuck inside a video game, and I think the entire game design and the visual effects are fantastic. It's really beyond its time. And when I first time watched the movie, again, this was one of those movies where I watched it and I could not believe that this is a movie that was made in 1984. Because if you look at Hindi films made in 1984, what I'm talking about, right? They did not even have proper color in it. So yeah, third recommendation, Tron. Definitely go and watch it, and also watch its sequel. Its sequel was also not so popular, so you might not have watched Tron Legacy as well. So watch Tron and Tron Legacy. So recommendation number 4, and without which of course this list would not be complete, is Terminator. And you might have watched the more recent versions of Terminator, the Dark Fate, and the Genesis, and all the recent releases. But I don't know if you know it, but the original version of Terminator came out in 1984, and that's the one in which Arnold Schwarzenegger became really famous. And of course, Terminator is like really mainstream. So of course, you guys know what Terminator is, even if you've not watched the movie. Terminator has made the term Skynet so popular that whenever we see any kind of artificial intelligence trying to get out of hand or not being able to be controlled, we immediately are like, oh my god, look at Skynet. But yeah, Terminator of course brought this entire concept of an AI defeating the human race and taking over the world, very mainstream. And of course it launched an entire franchise of movies. So Terminator is of course a lot about raw adrenaline and action and shooting and all. But yes, I think the theme of Terminator series, like all the subsequent movies that have come out in Terminator ever since, has been a lot about how human beings fight the robots and the AI. So, of course, if you have not watched the original Terminator movies, the second Terminator movie, 1984, 1992, if you have not watched those, definitely go and watch them. You're going to be really loving it. Okay, so the final one, and I think if you're watching till now, I think you might have guessed because I said movies before 2000. So I'm just getting to 1999, and the last recommendation is The Matrix. Matrix, I don't know how many of you would know because or seen, because Matrix obviously was a famous film and it redefined. For me, when I was really young, I watched the Matrix trilogy, and I did not watch it in '99, but I watched like the entire trilogy somewhere, maybe 2006, 7. But Matrix was like the best film in my mind for a long, long time, and it was, of course, the best. I think trilogy also before I think maybe Dark Knight released, but yeah. And Matrix, of course, changed a lot of things. So Matrix is, of course, created by the very famous Wachowski brothers. They, I think, call themselves as Wachowski sisters now, and it redefined a lot of things. It redefined how slow motion photography is done, bullet time. If you're playing the Max Payne games, you would know that. And then it redefined the concept of nesting of virtual world. So like if the world you are in is like controlled by AI, and you are within another world that's also controlled by AI, so you're in a world inside a world again. Something that Inception had brought that kind of a point much later on. And of course, like the fight scenes in Matrix are also like some of the best choreographed fight scenes, and I've never seen something like that ever after that. But Matrix is also about the concept of choice. There's this very famous, meme level scene of showing the two pills, the red pill and the blue pill, where either you take a choice and face the reality, or you live in the make believe and pretend world that you're already living in. And do you take a choice to change things? Which also works as the theme of many other AI based movies and shows of our time, like Westworld and everything, where it's about like AI will take over everything, but then what changes human beings from AI is that we really have that choice between the red pill and the blue pill. So yeah, I think Matrix, of course, the entire trilogy was not before 2000. The next two films came out after 2000, but the first film came out in 1999, and for a film made in 1999, it's a really great film. So I definitely recommend going and watching the trilogy if you have not. Okay, if you have not watched Matrix, like why not? But I know a lot of people who only know the Matrix memes and they haven't actually watched the movie. So go definitely watch that movie. Hope this has been a great list of movies for you guys to watch. Most of these are not a single movie. There are movies which have got remakes or sequels, or a series started with that. So you have some great recommendations, and also it's the kind of movies where coders and programmers and all can geek out on the use of science fiction, cyberpunk, and AI, and all of that stuff. So have a nice time. Watch the movies in your free time while you're also spending your time